These are the worst moments F1 has ever seen.
Heavily and brought out the safety car.
Truly, all of these moments are devastating. Just like the horrible incident that happened in this race. The McLaren driver was racing hard, getting close to Esteban Gutierrez. Both drivers were now locked in an intense battle, racing at nearly 200 miles per hour. But when Alonso and his McLaren tried to overtake, in just an instant, Alonso's McLaren went flying. His car spiraled, twisting through the air like it weighed nothing. Luckily, nothing happened to him, thank God. Alonso did walk away unharmed, but unfortunately, we can't say the same for this driver. Alberto Ascari, a fierce Italian driver, was chasing Stirling Moss for the lead, pushing his Ferrari to the limit. But when he reached the tight chicane near the harbour, suddenly his car slid out of control. And so, when he approached that tight harbour chicane, disaster.
The chicane. The car has somersaulted straight into the harbour.
For a few seconds, Ascari disappeared under the waves, with fans fearing the worst. But then, against all odds, he surfaced, swimming to safety. And once again, like before, he was also mostly unharmed. Later, you'll see the worst F1 moment of all time. But first, you gotta see this. This driver created a huge controversy, which I believe was totally unacceptable.
In France, which didn't make him happy.
At the German GP, Nelson Piquet was in top form, leading the race and aiming for victory. As the laps went by, Piquet expertly handled the challenging Hockenheim circuit. He was in perfect control, keeping his opponents at bay and setting up for what looked to be an inevitable win. But as he approached Eliseo Salazar, who was slower and ready to be lapped, things went sideways. Piquet set up the overtake, calculating his move carefully to avoid any risk. But unfortunately, it didn't go as planned.
Salazar's hit him! Oh, goodness gracious me!
In just an instant, the two cars collided, and Piquet lost the race win. Now, the situation was serious. It's something I should have said 10 seconds later. Because guys, things went from bad to worse over there. After the collision, Piquet stormed out of his car, fury written across his face. He sprinted towards Salazar and without missing a beat, unleashed on him.
Oh, Pitt says, Ed, take that! Oh my goodness!
It's obvious how emotions can run high on the track. I get that. But this was not right. It shouldn't have happened. But guys, it still doesn't even come close to what happened in Singapore. Because this race created the darkest moment in Formula One. Renault's Fernando Alonso was starting from further back on the grid, so much so that winning seemed almost impossible. But then, in order to undercut, Alonso pitted on lap 12, a move that puzzled both commentators and fans. But still, everything seemed normal. Pit stop went fine and the race was going on as expected. But then, all of a sudden, everything changed.
Renault's gamble looked to have paid off when Piquet crashed heavily and brought out the safety car.
That's Nelson Piquet, and that is likely, I would have thought.
Few laps after Alonso pitted, his teammate Nelson Piquet collided. Puzzle number 2. Due to this, the safety car came out, which obviously made everyone slow down. This break benefited Alonso, as other drivers still had to pit, which meant Alonso, who already pitted, was suddenly now in prime position. In just a few seconds, Alonso went from P15 to P1, and since Singapore is the less overtakes track, it was now smooth sailing. Alonso drove well and maintained position, and so eventually finished P1.
Alonso coming through to take the checkered flag and claim a very, very well-deserved victory in Formula One's first ever night race.
Now, as the dust settled and the season went on, people started to realize something felt off. Rumors began to circulate in the paddock. Why had Piquet collided at such an ideal time for Alonso? I mean, it seemed too perfect. Well, months later, the truth finally came out. Piquet, who was not with Renault anymore, revealed that the collision had been planned from the start. Renault had orchestrated the entire thing to secure Alonso's win. Renault was handed massive penalties, and the officials involved faced lifetime bans to all those involved. Well, almost all of them. Some even say that few members of the FIA did find out early on about this incident, but still did nothing.
Renault have denied all these allegations, but is Formula One about to slip into one of its darkest moments?
Crashgate became one of F1's worst moments, a scheme that crossed every line in the sport. Some even said that Nelson practiced how to crash on the warm-up lap. That's some commitment. But look, now that we're at the top 2 moments, buckle up. Things will become much more serious. The Nürburgring circuit, nicknamed the Green Hell, has the reputation for being one of the most dangerous tracks in F1. But in 1976, it became way too dangerous. Nikki Lauda insisted that the track was too risky for modern F1 racing.
Conditions were too harsh, and he asked the other drivers to boycott the race.
He argued for the race to be cancelled due to the high speeds and narrow roads of the long winding circuit. But when the other drivers still voted to proceed, Lauda had no choice but to race. Nikki Lauda never shied away from any battle, no matter what the challenge was. On race day, Lauda started strong, competing with the same intensity and focus that had earned him many championships. But as he was speeding into one of the circuit's many treacherous corners, something went terribly wrong. His Ferrari suddenly veered off course, skidded across the track, and slammed into a barrier. It's suspected that a puncture or suspension failure may have caused this incident. The car got totally engulfed in flames, and when it bounced back onto the track, it even got hit by Brett Lunger, another driver who had no time to avoid the wreck. In just a few seconds, the whole world changed. This was so severe that honestly, I can't even go into detail. The whole thing was truly horrible. Doctors warned him that his chances of survival were slim. Even his friends and family might have prepared themselves for the worst. But Lauda didn't give up. His resilience and determination shocked everyone. He fought through the pain and had a single goal in mind: to get back in that driver's seat. And miraculously, just 42 days after the incident, he made his return to Formula One at the Italian Grand Prix. Just 42 days. This is why Nikki Lauda's a legend. Unbelievable. But now, out of all the things shown in this video, here's the worst moment that happened in F1.
Senna achieves his ambition to win the
Has won the jubilant Team Lotus mechanic.
A 3-time world champion and a beloved figure in racing, Senna was at the height of his career. As always, he was known for his incredible skill and fearless approach. However, as the weekend began in Italy, there came a horrible tension in the air. During qualifying, Austrian driver Roland Ratzenberger lost his life in a fatal collision, the first demise in F1 in over a decade. The tragedy shook the entire paddock.
The driver of car number 32, NTV Syntec Ford, Roland Ratzenberger, succumbed to injuries sustained in the accident which took place at Imola Circuit during Saturday qualifying practice, April 30th.
Senna spent the night questioning the safety of the sport, speaking with fellow drivers, and even considering whether he should race. He was deeply affected by Ratzenberger's passing, but Senna's competitive spirit ultimately won out. On race day, he lined up on the grid, determined to race in Ratzenberger's honor. But then, on lap 7, everything changed. As Senna approached the Tamburello corner at over 190 miles per hour, it stopped the whole universe. Red flags came out, and the race crew started to take Senna to medical care, which unfortunately wasn't of much use. The collision was so severe that Senna didn't make it.
The former world motor racing champion Ayrton Senna has been pronounced clinically after a crash at this afternoon's San Marino Grand Prix.
It's been reported that the steering column had snapped. When that column snapped, Senna lost control of the steering, sending his car off the track and straight toward the concrete wall. And, well, what happened next, I can't even say out loud. The world lost a legend that day. It was even later revealed that Senna had carried an Austrian flag in his car, intending to wave in tribute to Ratzenberger at the end of the race. This shows the kind of guy Senna was. Ayrton Senna wasn't just a racing driver. He was a symbol of passion, precision, and fearless dedication that went beyond the limits of Formula One. But even more than that, Senna was also known for his compassion and generosity. When another racing driver, Eric Comas, had collided horribly in Spa 1992, Senna literally stopped mid-track, got out, and risked his own life to help Comas.
Il s'était arrêté, était sorti de sa voiture pour porter assistance au pilote français. Dimanche dernier, à Imola.
He even donated millions to charities in secret, believing that his position gave him a responsibility to make a difference. And just months before this worst moment, Senna also founded the Ayrton Senna Institute, whose mission is to help children in Brazil get quality education. This is why Senna's a legend, and why he goes beyond Formula One. When Senna passed away, the government of Brazil had declared 3 days of national mourning. The whole country came to a halt. No one could believe it. This shows what Senna meant to everyone. The legend who will remain in our hearts forever.